Hey guys, it's Bree from 6 Hearts on 6 Acres. Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, I am so very glad to have you. We are in the kitchen again today. I feel like this has been pretty non-stop the last couple weeks with so much harvest coming in, but I am so very thankful for it. I know sometimes this time of the year feels overwhelming if you have a garden. Really, no matter the size, stuff starts to come in and it's like, what do I do with all of this abundance? Well, today I'm going to show you what I do with mine. This is some of what I am working with today. My plan today is to make a house salsa, a basil banana pepper jelly, to get this squash and zucchini cut up and battered and frozen, and to get some herbs going in the dehydrator. So come along with me and let's get to work in the kitchen. I have two helpers today. Ella is chopping the squash and zucchini for me right now. Say hi, Elle.
Hello.
And Avery's over here washing lids and rings for our jars that are going in the dishwasher. So I have lots of help, and we are gonna get some projects knocked out. I'm going to start with the simple house salsa recipe in this ball canning book. Now I am changing things up just a little bit, but making sure to keep amounts the same so that I do have a safe recipe to get going in my water bath canner. I'm going to start working on my tomatoes. Now for this recipe I need 10 cups of chopped tomatoes. I think that I'm going to have enough to triple this recipe and make a lot of salsa, enough to last me the year. So I'm just going to get to work on knocking all of these tomatoes out. What I like to do with my tomatoes is to core them. Put an X on the bottom. And then I'm going to put them all in a bowl here. I have my canner going, and I just have it filled up with hot water that I'm going to bring to a boil so I can get these tomatoes blanched and then into an ice bath. That is going to help me to easily get the skin off of these, because I don't like the skin in my salsa. I've made it that way before and just left it in there, and I know a lot of people do it that way. It's not my favorite texture, so I just like to take this extra step to get the skin off. Now you can tell I use a variety of tomatoes while I'm making this. I don't only do plum tomatoes or paste tomatoes like the recipe actually calls for. I grow a big variety in my garden, and so I have a big variety to work with. That means that my sauce may have a little bit of extra water to it because tomatoes like these that are more for slicing tend to be juicier than a tomato like this that's more of a paste tomato. But that's okay. That just means I'll cook it a little bit longer and let some of that juice evaporate. Looks like you're doing a great job, Elle.
Thank you.
But do it over that bowl. There you go. That way you don't make a big juicy mess everywhere. I mean, try and get it all off. But if there's a tiny bit, it's not going to hurt anything. It just makes better salsa if you get it all off. Mm-hmm. You want it dry or with milk?
I did them already 12.
Awesome. Now do your sixes. We got a new helper in the kitchen now. Isaac took over peeling tomatoes. We've gotten quite a bit done. About half of our tomatoes. Our pot's getting pretty full. That's okay. Alright, Ella finished chopping up all of our squash and zucchini. So I'm going to put together just a quick batter for them to be able to get the squash and zucchini dipped so we can get it frozen. I like to do my flour just in a gallon-sized bag. I don't do any exact measurements. I'm just going to put a good size amount in there because we do have a lot of squash and zucchini. And if I need more, I'll get more. And then I like to go in with garlic. Measure with your heart. I'm going to use the big side, not the sprinkles. We like a lot. And then, of course, salt and pepper. Give this a good shake. Get it all mixed up. Okay, this is ready. I'm going to put it at the station, and I think Avery is going to start for us. Now, I'm going to have her put the squash and zucchini in this bag, shake it up, get them covered, and then she'll pull them out, dip them into an egg wash, and then into panko breadcrumbs, and then lay them flat. We're just going to be using these panko breadcrumbs. You're going to crack the eggs into this bowl. You can put the eggshells in here.
I just cracked it a little bit.
Look at all of this. That is a whole lot of tomatoes that we got done there. These are gonna make an excellent salsa. Now, I'm not gonna measure all of these tomatoes, but I am gonna just say it's close to 30 cups and triple my recipe. So we're definitely gonna have a year's worth of salsa. I also love to give this to friends and give it as gifts. So I should have about 24 pints of salsa when we are finished with this. We're gonna start chopping peppers now. I just came in from outside in the garden and I grabbed all of the peppers and onions that we're gonna need for this recipe. I need to get them washed, but let me show you how pretty some of these are. These are called blot peppers. This is my first year growing them. They're the coolest looking pepper and they're huge. I also have, I think these ones are California Wonders. They're gonna turn red. It's obviously not yet, still green, still tastes good. These are Purple Beauty bell peppers. They look black on the camera, but they're like the deepest shade of purple there is. I think these are YOLO, like YOLO. Obviously a yellow bell pepper. In the middle of turning. And then I had a couple that have already turned. And then I grabbed the onions from my garden as well. I'm gonna get these all washed up and then we'll start chopping. And yes, I learned my lesson from the Fiesta salsa we made. We will be chopping in the food processor this time. Oh, and I forgot. I also grabbed, I've told you over and over, I don't like spicy food. And I don't want this salsa to be spicy. I have tons of hot salsa in the basement that I made last year that my husband can eat. But I do want a couple jalapenos just for like the faintest whiff of heat. I don't know. Like just like milder than mild, but just to still give it a little bit of flavor. So my goal here is like a restaurant style salsa where the salsa is very, very smooth and the only chunks are the onions and cilantro. So I'm gonna put my peppers in this food processor. I'm not gonna fully blend them all the way, but I'm gonna get them broken down into pretty good chunks. And then they're gonna go into this pot of tomatoes where they will cook down. And then once it's cooked pretty well, I'm gonna blend it up with my immersion blender. So I am just rough chopping the peppers and throwing them into this food processor. Probably. So we need 6 cups of peppers because we tripled our tomatoes. These purple bell peppers are bright green on the inside. It's pretty neat looking. All right, the girls are done because we have run out of breadcrumbs, although we have quite a bit of zucchini left. This is what it looks like. We have a few different layers here. I'm gonna take this to I'm gonna cover it and then take this to the freezer and let them flash freeze, and then I'll put them into a bag. I put the rest of the zucchini in the bag that I had the flour and seasonings in, shook it up really good, and I'm just gonna stick this in the freezer like this. This is an experiment. I have not done it like this before. I'm also going to break down and chop up 3 heads of garlic to add to the salsa. The salsa has been simmering for a little while now. It still has a long way to reduce, but I'm gonna go ahead and use my immersion blender and just get some of these tomatoes broken down so they release all of that liquid so it can boil out of there. While my salsa is boiling down, I'm going to go ahead and get started on my next recipe. It's going to be another one from the Ball Book of Canning. This is something I've never tried before. It is the basil and banana pepper jelly. I chose to make this recipe because it says it's excellent as a glaze or a marinade, and we do a lot of like grilling and smoking. So I thought it would just be something nice to have on the pantry to add some variety to our meals. Plus, I already have everything growing in the garden. I have an assortment of peppers here that I've gotten out of the garden. Most are banana peppers, but I also have just a few like, I don't know what variety of pepper this is. My label got lost. I have a blot pepper. I have some candy cane peppers. Just a little bit of variety so I have some different color in there. Now I know technically the rule is that you don't double or triple jelly recipes or jam recipes, that you only make a single batch at a time. But this jelly recipe only makes 3 8-ounce jars. And that's not very many, so I'm going to attempt to make more than that. Now we will see if it turns out. Like I said, I've never made this recipe before, and I'm not sure how well it will double or triple, but I also don't want to waste my time making a pint and a half. So I'm gonna get these washed and get them chopped. And again, just like the other peppers, I'm not about to spend 45 minutes chopping, so I'm gonna take the seeds out and take the tops off and just throw these into my food processor. All right, all of these peppers are gonna go straight into my pot. I don't have the heat on this yet. I have a red onion from my garden. I am going to chop this up. I need 3/4 of a cup for this recipe, and I tried to choose one that I felt like would be about that much. I'm just going to chop this very, very small. Well, I got my 3/4 of a cup with just half the onion. Obviously, I'm not a very good guesser. The recipe says to chop up 3 to 4 large basil leaves. I feel like that's not a great measurement because it really depends on what type of basil you're growing. Like mammoth basil, I would consider large. But I went out to the garden this morning and I grabbed these Genovese basil leaves. And remember, I'm tripling the recipe, but I'm gonna just grab all of my biggest ones. This is basil jelly after all. So we're gonna go in with a big handful of this and we're just cutting it into thin ribbons. The recipe also calls for dried basil, which seems a little strange to me, but we're gonna go ahead and add it. The recipe says 1/4 teaspoon, so we need 3/4, and this is a 1/2 teaspoon. Okay, to this I'm gonna add 2 1/4 cups of just white vinegar. and then 9 cups of sugar. That number sounds kind of crazy considering the amounts of the other ingredients, but that's what the recipe says. We're going to stir this continually until it comes to a full rolling boil, and then that's when we'll add our pectin. All right, this jelly is now to a full rolling boil. So we are gonna add the liquid pectin and we're gonna boil it for 1 minute. Now I tripled this recipe, so I'm gonna be using 3 packages of pectin. Now we're gonna boil this at a hard boil, constantly stirring for 1 minute, and then we'll remove it from the heat and fill our jars. Okay, I'm gonna get these cleaned up. Make sure that there's no jelly on the rims so that the lids will be able to get a really good seal. Is this jelly not beautiful? I'm filling my water bath canner right now so I can get these processing. Ideally, I would have already had it hot and ready to go, but my burner is not big enough to have my salsa going, cooking this, and getting that water bath canner going, so they'll be just fine to sit here for a few minutes until it gets hot. All right, these are ready to go into the canner. These half pints will process for 10 minutes, and the pints will process for 15 minutes. Oops. I started putting them in there and realized I do not have I started putting my jars in there and realized I didn't have my heat shield down yet. So, going back in. This little tiny quarter of a pint goes for 10 minutes as well. While those are processing, I'm going to start chopping up my onion for my salsa because it is just about ready to finish off. I need 3 cups of onion for this, and I'm going to cut it up fairly small, but I do like a little bit of onion chunk in my salsa. This is the worst part about having a YouTube channel, is cutting onions in front of people. There's the timer. I'm going to set that for 5 more minutes for my bigger jars. And we're going to continue to get this salsa worked up. Now I need 3 tablespoons of dried oregano. I have this that I harvested from the garden and had it dried just by setting it out and hanging it. I haven't obviously taken it off of the plant yet though, but we will just do that straight into the pot. And I'm gonna just pull it off here into my hand and then crumble it. That was about 3 tablespoons. Next is going to be 3 tablespoons of sugar. 1.5 tablespoons of cumin. And 1.5 tablespoons of salt. I'm going in with this pink Himalayan. Next is 3 cups of apple cider vinegar. It's hot, but it's not spicy hot, just temperature hot. But it tastes really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and take these jars out because they're beeping at me real quick. Look how pretty this jelly is. Is that not gorgeous? And then I'm gonna do a rough chop on some of this cilantro that Avery washed for me earlier today. I absolutely love cilantro. It calls for 1 cup, so I'm tripling, so 3 cups. If I have a little more than that, I will not be upset though. All right, my salsa is completely ready. Let's get these jars filled. That's a lot of salsa. I ended up with 30 pints of salsa. That is definitely going to last me for the year, plus I'll have plenty to give away as gifts. The salsa is going to process for 15 minutes in my water bath canner. So we're going to start loading them up. My canner holds 10 pints, so I'll obviously have to do this in 3 batches. That is what they look like. That's the timer for the last batch of salsa. And we are done for the day.